Very nice.
Bit of a Greg Cockism on the end there. Hello to Greg Cock if you're watching.
Hey, Greg.
We hung out in Denmark just recently.
That was amazing.
Hello, welcome to That Pedal Show.
Hey guys, Dan here.
Mick here.
We're going to get Greg on the show.
Yes, we are.
He's going to come in 2017 and we're going to hang out. We're going to have him on the show. Anyway, so we had a request to look at some clean tones, and I thought this was really interesting.
What's humming, Dan?
We have 3 amps on at once, Mick. That's
okay,
what's humming.
that's what's humming. What are those amps, Dan?
We have a 1961 Vox AC30. We have an original Jazz Chorus 120, and we have the Super Reverb. Guess I should play them with the examples, shouldn't I, Mick?
You should. Maybe we should do some housekeeping first.
Let's do some housekeeping first.
We need to remember to do this. Number 1, we are on Patreon.
We are on Patreon.
Crowdfunding for creatives. It helps us raise a bit of cash, and for everyone who has donated some money to us, thank you so much. It helps massively to keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, thank you guys. Amazing.
Number 2,
we have t-shirts for sale at thatpedalshowstore.com. These have been a massive boost for us. So to everyone that's also bought a t-shirt, thank you so much.
yeah, we've got enough for 1 brick of the gold clon-shaped mansion.
We do. Half a brick. Have a gold painted brick.
We can pay for things like shooting and editing. It's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thirdly, please visit one of our preferred exclusive retailers in the UK. That's Anderton's Music, UK and Europe. And in the US, it's Riff City Music, and we're very glad to be working with those guys.
Yeah, they're great. Okay, so let's have a look at the amplifiers then. This is the AC30.
What number are you?
I'm on number 1.
What is this interesting box here, Daniel?
So that's the 3-to-1, Mick.
That's very interesting.
You like that?
Yeah.
More on that later. Okay, so this is the AC30. Just full of lovely goodness. This is the Jazz Chorus. Shall we hear that with the chorus on?
Better hear it with the chorus on. Yep.
This is
Check out this knob.
and this is the sound that made the amp famous. Awesome. This is the Super Reverb. So, all on together.
Give it a whack. So to adjust the recording levels there, Dan's Telecaster has the most crazy dynamic range, and quite often he'll go and listen to this, and it'll be all nice and quiet, and then you'll go boom, and yeah. Anyway, so yeah, pretty obvious why we've chosen those 3 amps.
Yeah, so for a show on clean sounds, these really are the 3 standout archetypal. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes. Archetypal clean tones. You know, so the AC30, it's the sound of that, Rickenbacker, changed the world.
Yeah.
Then the transistor amplifier, the fabled Jazz Chorus. It's so many players in the 80s. That was their clean tone. Amazing. Then of course the Fender.
Super Reverb, chosen because could have chosen a twin reverb, could have chosen many Fender. I mean, typically you would choose the black face, which is why we've gone for the Super, and of course we own it, so that makes it easy. probably wouldn't go for something small. You know, you wouldn't necessarily go for a tweed Fender amp, even though they can make lovely clean sounds. Bassmen can make lovely clean sounds.
Sure
but
can.
they're kind of more known for the way they break up when you push them.
Yeah.
So, big wattage, more than one speaker. That's what we're talking about for a big clean sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when we look at clean sounds, especially playing in a band context, if I have my guitar just plugged straight into the amplifier, like into the AC30, when you have, especially with valve amplifiers, when they're pushed, there's this natural thing that happens between the combination of, was that me?
It was me.
That was you. There's a combination of the preamp valves, power amp valves, the output transformer, and the speakers. So 15 watt speakers in that amplifier. EL84's output valves, which are set to Class A. Oh, I feel like I've got to do this every time.
It's not really Class A.
It's not really everyone calls it Class A, so let's just carry on.
But they are cathode biased, which is important.
Exactly.
Yeah, anyway, whatever.
So...
Quickly run past that barking.
So, even though the amp is clean, right, and this is clean, now when I start to push into that sound a bit, there's this lovely natural compression of the amplifier, and it's glorious. And this is true whether we're doing clean sounds or not, but the way that we have the setup at the moment is we still have enough headroom to give us that lovely clean sound, but the amp is still working.
Yeah.
Okay? Very different story when we go to the jazz chorus. So jazz chorus. When I play harder into the jazz chorus, it just gets louder.
Spikier and louder, yeah.
Okay. It's a great sound.
It is.
For that clean sound. There is the transits are really quick. There is so much headroom. It's a really hard thing to put your finger on, but I could call it like there's a flatness to the sound that works beautifully in some contexts.
Yeah.
A lot of people use the jazz chorus in tandem with another amplifier. It's actually like Steve Rothery. The jazz chorus and I think the Silver Jubilee was certainly a big part of his thing. I'm sure it was a Silver Jubilee, I could be wrong.
I think it is.
But he's also used things like the Groove Tube, the four-way...
It's also
preamp.
humming really badly, which is annoying me massively. So, henceforth, when you hear that hum, it's the JC120.
It's very old. This belongs to Dave Gregory from XTC.
Oh, thanks, Dave.
Also from
just
Tin
after
Spirits.
I've gone, "Argh!" But yes, thank you, Dave, for loaning us your JC120.
So that's the difference between those two amplifiers, is the way they react with the guitar. And then the Fender, we all know how the Fender sounds.
In some respects, it's between the two, because
More headroom.
more headroom, more watts,
Mhm.
different kind of output valves, and they are definitely Class AB, fixed bias.
Fixed bias.
So all of these things that lest we get into that, but it's a different thing.
It's a different thing, but yeah, it does sit like somewhere between the two, like not necessarily sonic sound-wise, but certainly in that sort of the way that the guitar reacts with the amplifier.
Yeah, it's not as kind of like that as the JC120, but it also doesn't compress as much as the Vox,
Sure.
especially when you start turning it up. We'll start compressing when you turn it up, but we're not going there
Sure.
today.
So 3 different classic clean sounds, and yet different experiences playing them.
Yep.
All right. So I thought we'd just have a quick look at some classic effects to use with a clean sound.
Yep.
First and foremost, if you're going to be using clean stuff, you've got to have a compressor.
I was hoping he was going to say that.
Yeah. You don't have to have a compressor.
Yes, you do.
But you have to have a compressor.
Yes, you do. We're going to demonstrate right now why you have to have a compressor, Dan.
Okay, so let's start with the jazz chorus.
Okay. That's why you have to have a compressor.
Yeah. What the compressor does, so where we had that huge dynamic range in the 120, and it's limiting that dynamic range, so the quiet notes of the guitar are the same level as the loud notes of the guitar, yeah, or you know, a closer ratio, if you will. And for clean sounds, it's such a great thing to be able to do. If you just throw me on for a sec.
What number are you?
Number one. So, again. The evenness across the strings.
Play that again.
Okay, so without the compressor. Random spiky notes, and then. Especially when you're doing things like, if you're playing like fast, funkier type chords. The reason I love it for that is if you're doing fast, clean stuff, the transients can become more of a percussion thing than a note thing. Does that make sense? Now, so if you're after the percussion thing, awesome. But when you want to hear those chords, what the compressor does is it just brings everything up to that uniform thing. That the initial attack of those transients don't take over the whole sound. So compressor is a vital thing to understand when you want to get these big, lush, clean sounds.
It's kind of easy to understand why it works as well, because if you stick overdrive into your amp, you're just reducing its dynamic range massively.
Yep.
So the difference between playing soft and playing hard is can, depending on what pedal you're using, but if you've got loads of gain going, isn't that much.
Yep.
But of course, with a clean sound, you've got the whole, nothing's being compressed,
exactly,
and you've got loads more bottom end, and you've got loads more top end with which you can work. Because that's the other thing about clean sounds, isn't it? You can have more bass and treble than you would dare have with an overdriven sound because of all kinds of reasons. So you've got this. Not only have you got a bigger frequency range, but you've also got a bigger dynamic range. Therefore, hitting the guitar loud and soft makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
So compressor can even that out.
Yeah. Yeah, and so what we're doing with the compressor, we're limiting that dynamic range. Yeah, and it's just getting used to that idea of the compressor as a limiter is a, you know, for your clean sounds, essential to understand. Essential. Right, so I want to have a quick look then at another really cool way to get great clean sounds. Now, if you haven't seen the Andy Timmons video that we did, and this is like one of our very first ever,
which is the one at the borderline.
The one at the borderline.
Yeah.
And Andy shows us how he gets his clean tone, and it blew my mind. So what Andy does is he actually uses an overdrive pedal with quite a lot of gain.
Yeah.
And he dials back the volume on his guitar. Now, Andy does have a treble bleed circuit in his guitar. If you're using humbucker guitars, which we'll get to in a bit, it's especially pertinent with a humbucker. Single coils, though, you can sort of get away with it. So let's try the Fender. Right, so. Clean sound of the Fender. Now here is the blues driver with my volume all the way up.
That's not a clean sound.
That's not a clean sound. But when I dial my volume back, now that's nice. I'm going to do it with the guitar that has the Treble Bleed mod in it, which is my gorgeous Nick Huber Cluster 2. So, again, volume full up. So the overdrive pedal is in a way acting like the compressor, but it's adding, as I dig in, it breaks up a little bit. So
So still a bit of drive in there.
yeah, definitely. But as a clean sound, it's the same thing with the fuzzes. When you roll back the volume, you know, on a nice Germanium fuzz,
That's the pedal we should have had. One of my favourite clean sounds is my Hendrix fuzz face tile back. We might do that before the end of the video.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You know, and adjusting the level of drive gives you a different clean sound experience when, as you know, the more volume that you roll off. And then you have this dynamic thing where you can turn the volume up and go into a, you know, hairy thing. But it's a great way.
And it's funny with the volume control because there are guitar players who literally never go near their volume control. What's the cliche? Turn it up to 10 and snap it off.
Right.
Is the the punk rock thing. And there are other guys who prefer to do it on the floor with different gain pedals. I am in a plectrum dropping mood today. Prefer to do it with pedals, but for those of you who do use the volume controller on your volume control all the time, you'll know that it just gives you another 58,000 tones. This being one of them.
Yep. So a really cool way to do it.
And for also just for anyone who doesn't know what a treble bleed mod is, on the volume pot of you typically do it. Well, actually no, you can do it on all guitars. What happens with a potentiometer? It's a variable resistor, right? So when you turn it down, more treble gets bled to ground, is what happens. Or high frequencies go to ground, don't they?
Yeah, when
you turn it down.
Yeah, but without the treble.
Yeah.
Okay. So the standard thing, you're just letting more of the signal go to ground, but those high frequencies are the things that are first affected.
Yes. So when you put the treble bleed mod on, it stops that from happening.
That's right.
So it should be called a no treble bleed, right?
That's right. And very good. Very good.
Because what you're doing there without the mod is treble is bleeding.
Yeah. It's basically exactly the same thing as having a bright switch on your amplifier. Yeah. So that bright switch puts a little capacitor across the volume pot on the amplifier, so that when you turn it down, it still retains the certain high-end frequencies.
Interesting.
It's exactly the same.
So
with
when
guitar.
it's full up, it's virtually
when it's
out
full
of the
up,
circuit.
if you have any amplifier, you turn it all the way up. The bright switch won't make any difference whatsoever.
Okay, that makes sense.
So,
and typically it is a resistor and a capacitor, although there are various ways to do it.
Exactly. So the value of the capacitor, value of the resistor makes a huge difference. So have a look around. However, if you're handy with the soldering iron and stuff, it is a really simple mod to do yourself, and it can be really great.
I don't like it. I don't like having it on my guitars because the way I set my sound up is when it's full open, it's blaring and loud and presency and all the rest of it. And when it cuts back, the treble rolls off, and that just gives me a good rhythm sound.
Right.
So it's doesn't interfere with the vocals as much.
Sure.
So it really is a horses for courses thing. Gretsch players tend to love it. Telly players tend to love it. Players of humbucker guitars that get very dark very quickly tend to love it.
Yeah. So have a listen to the humbucker on this one as well. That was the P90.
Can we hear it into the JC?
Yep.
perhaps unsurprisingly, the Vox seems to hold on to the high stuff a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So we're making a video about clean sounds, and we all are already into heavy overdrive.
That's what we do, people.
Okay, so compressor, really important. Using a decent overdrive pedal with your volume down. What else what other light can we shed on clean sounds?
Volume, as in how loud the amplifier is.
Right.
So if you've got an amplifier so let's say you've got a 15 watt amplifier in a band, and you crank that thing up and it's rocking out, it's going to sound ace. But then when you turn it down so it's clean, you're going to really struggle to be heard. So this is why a lot of the country players loved the Fender Twin when it came out, 100 watts. So the Silverface came out, it was like 140 watts, it's a huge amount of headroom and power. And the clean guys loved it because it just meant they had more dynamic range. So it's something to be aware of. If you're looking to do lots of clean stuff, you don't necessarily want a small tube amplifier that you crank up to sound great. Yeah,
that's why, as we said before, that's why we've chosen these amps. I mean, bigger amp, more headroom, more clean.
Just something to be aware of when you're
sounds blinking obvious to say it, but I've had lots of conversations with, in fact, if you've watched our How to Get More Out of Your Blues Junior video that went up recently, I've had lots of conversations with Blues Junior owners who are like, it's just, I can't get enough clean headroom. It's like, you probably need a Hot Rod Deluxe or something slightly bigger if you want the clean headroom.
Sure. Isn't that pretty?
I'm always amazed how many people I speak to are like, oh, tremolo, don't get it. And people who get really go all to pieces when the tremolo isn't in time with the music. It's like, no, that's the appeal of it. I mean, unless it's providing the rhythmic, like What's the Frequency, Kenneth, or some of those famous songs which use tremolo to set the meter of the song. Actually, having it pulsate against the time of the song, as long as it's not like just out.
What's that Smith song?
Yeah, How Soon Is Now. Is that what it's called? How Soon Is Now? Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So of course, unless you're doing something.
Obviously, neither of us can play that.
I saw him the other night.
Did you?
Yeah, Johnny Marr was at. Sorry.
I think we've been mentioning Andy Timmons and all kinds of things, haven't we?
Andy.
Johnny Marr
was at the Noel Gallagher gig.
Oh,
he gets a hoot now.
Yeah, he gets a hoot now.
So, I mean, so those tremolo sounds, amazing things to do, but as something that just to add a bit of movement to the sound. Oh man, it's so good.
Can you turn the super on?
Can and will.
Reverb. Just such a cool sound.
Yep.
Such a cool sound, and that's the Hamstead tremolo, not the trem in the amp. It does have trem in the amp, and very nice reverb.
That's actually the tremolo circuit out of their amplifier.
Is it?
Yeah, it's very, very cool.
Well, that calls for a comparison, doesn't it, Dan?
Amp trem. I'll just try it in classic mode for a second. That's more like the Fender circuit.
Different waveform. Yeah.
So yeah, anyway.
Close enough.
Yeah, great.
Not to care.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing sounding tremolo pedal. But one of the things with tremolo that you can do is set it really subtly with your clean sound. So it's almost sort of not there. But what it does is it just gives it a bit of movement. So I'll turn it right down.
Turn the reverb down a bit. That's cool.
It's cool, isn't it? It's just a little bit of movement. I love that.
The first time I ever interviewed Bonamassa, he had that crazy 4-amp rig,
right?
And one of the amps was always running with tremolo.
Oh wow!
Yeah, always, just a little bit.
Yeah,
just to give the whole thing a bit of movement.
There you go.
Wait, actually, on that subject, so I'm playing this, going, goodness me, that is very clean. Can you switch the Jan Ray on?
Yes.
And let's explore for a second. What is a clean sound anyway?
There you go.
So obviously that is not a clean sound. So we're just going to ease back the gain just to see. So we're just on the edge of clean there. Can you introduce the compressor to that mix?
I can.
See, now I was struggling a bit before when it was just clean. You just plugged into the amp and it was just clean and it was like, it's not really happening. But you add some of the dynamics of what you might get with overdrive, plus a wobble from a tremolo and a bit of, and all of a sudden that clean sound is. What's the tele sound like that?
Compressor, bit of Jan Ray. Tremolo. Oh, see, as soon as the tremolo kicks in, without it, just that tiny bit of movement. wrong sound completely. But that.
Let's just find the point on your volume control where we think it goes from clean to not clean.
Okay. It's like
It's pretty clean.
a millimetre and a half. But you can hear that top end just,
So nice.
yeah.
And then we're veering into that world of where clean is no longer clean.
Yeah.
And that's where, for me anyway, with clean sounds, that's where all the fun is.
Yeah, of
because
course.
just really spanking, pop your eyes out clean might be great with a compressor for sort of funk style, but once you get into single note lines and all of that, you want it just to start hairing up a bit, don't you? I always say that to Hank fans. I mean, God, I'm going to release the dragon or whatever the term is at this point, but a lot of the magic of those early Shadow sounds were that it had a bit of overdrive on it, in my opinion. You know, a cranked box amp.
Yep. As soon as, like, certainly for me, I never ever play that clean. You know, even straight to the amplifier's always turned up doing a little bit of its magic. And if I can't get the amplifier turned up so it does its thing, I'll have an overdrive pedal on
Just
with the
pushes
gain
it.
turned right down. You know, like we just did then. Because that sound, with a bit of trem and a bit of delay, that's me gone.
I'm trying to
for
think
hours.
I'm trying to think of a music where that very, 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 very clean is relevant. It's certainly relevant in funk, isn't it?
Yep.
But you would probably, so it's clean in terms of no overdrive, but it's probably very heavily compressed as well. So you're getting dynamic in that respect. Jazz again. Listen to Wes.
Oh man.
Bit of overdrive on there for sure.
Yep.
Some of those classic recordings.
Yeah, and you know, even BB into his transistor amplifier in the later years.
Well, you'll notice
still...
I've picked up a Gibson ES335, Daniel. This belongs to Danish Pete. Thanks, Pete. Borrowed this. I'm gassing really hard for a 335, so I'm just.
We have to.
I'm borrowing a couple just to either get rid of the gas or bring it on.
Nice.
So everyone bangs on about BB King and his transistor amp. Let's hear the jazz chorus.
Okay.
Oh yes, 3. BB never played any chords. Doing my best to play some BB Kingisms there, not really, but
And also saying we're going to plug the 335 into the transistor amplifier. It's like saying,
Just going to plug this Strat into a Fender and sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's not going to happen.
Now, I'm just trying to rack my brains for the name of the amplifiers that he was using.
Lab Series.
Oh, right, okay, there we go. So, the interesting thing about that sound is the way that humbuckers, that they're not as, they don't have the dynamic range of a single coil.
Sure.
So you're also getting a little bit of natural dynamic limiting from the humbuckers themselves.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a really interesting thing about the way that guitar works with the transistor amplifier.
Can I hear it into the Super?
You can indeed. So same thing with a really light touch of overdrive.
I've lost a little bit of level there. Can I just try that into the AC30? Can I try it into the AC30?
Alright, so without just the AC30 by itself.
And the JC?
Clean.
Pleasant experience. Actually, probably preferred the JC over the AC30.
Right, wow.
But the Twin was the Super was the. Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, for clean sounds, the idea for a lot of guys to actually have an overdrive pedal on there for their clean sounds,
Yeah.
probably a bit to get their head around. But, you know, just turn the gain down, and it all depends on the pedal as well. But if you've got a lovely dynamic pedal that sounds great, you know, at low gain, it could be awesome. I mean, you know, this is why loads of guys leave lots of these sorts of pedals on all the time.
What strikes me about that little experience switching around these guitars here is the transient attack of this guitar is so much different from the single coil Fenders.
Absolutely.
So that's a big deal with clean sounds, and you can see why, obviously, you're going to state the bleeding obvious here, but why the jazz guys went for bigger box guitars, because you really notice that with a clean sound where you've got can't play jazz for toffee, but the point is you don't have that kind of really springy. The way the guitar's putting out the note is, as you said before, it's almost compressed even before it gets anywhere.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have that.
We need to get a 325 for the show permanently. Like, that sounds awesome.
Try the Fender again. That's a nice bluesy jazzy sound right there.
And that's the guitar straight into the amplifier.
Yeah. Clean sound. Nice.
Nice.
Nice. But what a difference. I mean, just switch over to that guitar a sec. Sorry, what number are you in? One?
Yep. Not there. I'd have to.
I think what's useful to take away from that. Just that the massive EQ and dynamic range in a clean sound really, really, really brings out the difference in your guitars.
Definitely.
Compared with loads of overdrive.
Yep, definitely. This is why, you know, when your wife asks you, why do you need another guitar? This is the part of the video that you show her. It's... Then, I mean, quickly, the other obvious sounds, you know, the chorus sounds. And then... It's just, you know...
They get their full room to breathe, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We've just done a video on choruses on the new C2 Waza and a few other choruses, so much more on chorus and modulation in that video. But yeah, there we go. Okay, this won't be the last we do of this, because I think this video is going to throw up a million more questions than we've even begun to ask here. So,
but fascinating. It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's that whole dynamic range.
Yeah.
Between the guitars and the pedals and the amplifier and how they all work together. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Brilliant. Hope you enjoyed that, guys, and we will see you next week.
Indeed.
All right. Cheers, guys. Bye.